Hello and welcome to the program. On January 28th, OSCE Special Representative in the Trilateral contact group Sajdik announced a new peace plan for Donbas, which could replace the Minsk agreements. The concept involves a joint mission of the United Nations and the OSCE and envisages a Donbas reconstruction agency organized by the European Union. Now, to discuss this plan, we welcome in our studio today Maria Kucherenko. She's an analyst at the Center for Civil Society Studies. Hello and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation.
So first, question of timing here. Why do you think Mr. Sajdik's peace plan appeared right now?
This plan can appear actually right now because of very dangerous development around Minsk agreement and very dangerous development of conflict at all. Some conflictologists actually said that 5 years of conflict is one of the borders, after which, crossing which, conflict risks to be frozen. And that is why I think Sajdik proposed some new plan which can deblock some initiatives around the peaceful settlement. And actually, we shouldn't avoid the issue of Ukrainian election campaign. A presidential and a parliamentary election. And it's a chance to develop something new in discussion about peaceful settlement in Minsk or new format.
So you're saying that both the fact of these 5 years plus the election is a renewable way to change the Minsk agreement, but does that mean that it's the burial of the Minsk agreement, or is it something else?
Yeah, it's quite interesting question, because in interview to Kleine Zeitung, Sajdik actually said that Minsk agreements are not working at all, and that's why we need to find something new. But in the latest Trilateral contact group in Minsk, he actually said that it's not instead of Minsk. It's a new plan which will go in parallel to Minsk, but actually Sajdik actually avoided to comment his last words about this new plan with the participation of both of OSCE and UN.
Now, how is this plan fundamentally different? What does it bring more than the Minsk agreement here?
Actually, this new plan should bring the ratification of the agreements, as Sajdik said, both by Ukrainian and Russian parliaments. But if we see the text of the complex of measures or Minsk II, we just see that the second party of the conflict is not Russian Federation. In Minsk agreement, it was separate areas of Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts occupied by mercenaries of Russian Federation. But Sajdik actually underlined that the new agreement should be ratified by both of parliaments, but without Russian consent to
admit, basically, that they're part of
itself as a party of a conflict. It's actually a new non-working plan at all. And next new development by Sajdik is trying to involve UN peacekeepers, which was not actually a part of Minsk agreements. But still, if Russian Federation doesn't agree to invite peacekeepers to Ukrainian Ukrainian occupied territories, it is not actually a working plan, because if the UN peacekeepers will stay on the bordering line, it will not bring peaceful settlement. It will be only the armed guard of OSCE, and actually Surkov told the same thing, and it's not so different from Russian propositions at all.
And how would implying UN peacekeepers, I mean, if Russia gets into the involvement and if that works like that, how would it work? Doesn't it play in the narrative of Russia saying that, oh, like basically we're the victims here and, you know, we're constantly being targeted by the West, and then now they're sending UN peacekeepers, like what happened in 1995, anything like that? Wouldn't it play in this narrative? How to avoid that it plays in the Russian narrative?
Oh, actually, it's quite difficult, because it's again a question of ratification of agreement and a case of actually what what we are talking about, who is the second side or second party of the conflict. If we are talking in logic of Minsk agreements, it will be again the separate areas of Donetsk and Lugansk Oblast, but it's actually don't correspond to our reality, to reality of conflict. We need just find new agreement in which Russian Federation will be figuring as a party of conflict, not a party who trying to influence on the separate areas of Donetsk and Lugansk Oblast. And it's a crucial thing about all of this.
So what would be the leverage for Russia to admit it?
Actually, it's a question which should be addressed to Russian Federation, not to me. But if we see the reaction of close allies of Surkov, close to the presidential administration of Russian Federation, Alexei Chesnakov, we will see that they actually try to underline their position that Minsk agreements has no alternative at all. And I think that Russian Federation will not change this position because Minsk agreements allow Russian Federation stand out of the format, stand out of some new developments about Russian Federation as a party of conflict, and it's quite useful for them.
Now, if we go back to the Minsk agreement, one of the key actors of the Minsk agreement, namely Angela Merkel, is not going to be in power soon. Does that play into this change of plan?
Yes, of course. It's playing on the Kremlin's field, and I think that that changes and both the development around Nord Stream 2 will influence on the future of the peaceful settlement. Now we will see a lot of new plans which should actually discussed very carefully, and first of all inside Ukrainian society, not out of Ukrainian society, because if we will see the development around interview of Martin Sajdik, we will see that it was published in some Austrian media, and it was quite difficult to discuss it only on the basis of the interview without ground discussion about this plan by both Sajdik, Ukrainian side, and Russian side in an open format, but not in format like it was in the latest Trilateral contact group, when he actually avoided to comment this interview at all.
So basically, Ukraine should play a bigger role in any case, and not being just a simple actor of an agreement made by other parties here, but like be the bigger role because it's in the center of the...
Yeah, of course. I think actually that it shouldn't be any agreement without us, without our participation in discussion of this agreement, because if we will try, for example, discuss amnesty without agreement inside Ukrainian society, it will lead us to new military clashes, and it will lead us to new rising conflicts, especially inside of Ukrainian society and both in Russian-Ukrainian war. So the open discussion is only way to find the working agreement.
Now, President Petro Poroshenko said earlier that Ukraine needs, quote, a cold peace with Russia, in which Russia recognizes the sovereignty of Ukraine. How to realistically achieve it?
You know, I'm quite pessimistic in this case, because Russian Federation don't want actually to leave our occupied territories. Russian Federation doesn't plan at all to stop financing of these occupied territories, of its mercenaries and so on. And that is why talking about cold peace or another peace with Russian Federation now in nearest future, I don't think that it is too realistic. And if we will see a lot of these speeches around the elections, when every candidate trying to say to his people about peace, which
potential compromise,
compromise, so on. It's only about election, not about a settlement, because we must be realistic in this issue, because we will not have peace in 2 days or in 2 years or in several years,
or in 2 months, even years,
because Russian Federation Russian Federation is building a lot of structures with these occupied territories. For example, there are some platforms like integrational platform Donbas, Russia, in which Russian Federation trying to make some agreements with occupied territories and Russian regions. It's about economy, it's about some cultural ties and so on. Because this development just allow us to say that Russian Federation will not agree on any compromise with us. I mean compromise which lead to sustainable peace, which lead to the occupation of these territories and returning these territories under Ukrainian power.
Now, and to conclude this interview, as we said earlier, this is election turning point for Ukraine. Should the plan on Mr. Sajdik been signed before the election, and if it's not signed before the elections, whoever comes to power, how to ensure that that kind of plan continues and to be implemented?
You know, I'm not sure actually that this plan will be signed at all, and that this plan will be realized, because if we are talking about this plan on the basis on Minsk agreements, it's still non-working. It's still one more tool to show the alleged compromise, the alleged settlement, but it's not real settlement. It will not bring a peace to Ukraine, and it will not bring the occupation of our occupied regions of Donetsk and Lugansk oblasts, and it's actually, this plan is put out the issue of Crimea, and it's quite a big disadvantage of this of this discussion.
Well, thank you for this overview. It was a pleasure to have you in the studio today.
Thank you.
That was Kucherenko, analyst at the Center for Civil Society Studies. Thank you for watching the program, and stay tuned for the rest.